Hello friends, I hope everybody's doing well. Okay, so today we're going to be working on a Ryobi trimmer strimmer here. It's a model EX26, and this is the weed whacker that I use here in the yard. And what happened was I was in the middle of using it and I started running out of fuel, so I fueled it up and then I went to prime it and the primer bowl cracked. So in this video I'm going to show you how to change the primer bowl without taking the carburetor off. And this usually holds true with like a Craftsman, any 2-cycle that's a Craftsman, Weed Eater, Poulan I think, and probably some other brands. In other words, if you have a carburetor that is set up like the one I'm about to show you here, that's how you would change the primer bulb without taking it off. And I'm going to show you the easiest way I found to do this. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to point everything out right now on what we're going to do. And then I think I'm just going to do the hands-on. What happened was in the middle of, like I told you, I was using this and the primer bowl broke. I was in a hurry to get rolling again, so I just went ahead and changed the primer bulb out and continued. And then I thought to myself, well, it might be a good video to make for those of you that want to change the primer bulb without taking the carburetor off. So I'll be back to you momentarily. Okay, so I'm going to explain this the best I can to you. First thing you want to do is pop off the air cleaner cover here. Okay. All right. Right over here, if you could see, this is the screw for the base idle. Okay. And then right to the right of that, you have the throttle lever, which when you screw this in, it moves the lever to adjust the idle, either higher or lower. Okay, so the lower part of the carburetor is the part that houses that lever. The top part of the carburetor here is what houses the screw here, the adjustment screw. So what happens is sometimes when you have tension, when you have this screw screwed into where the plate's open to idle it, you have tension on it, and what happens is when you take these screws off that are pretty long, that hold the top portion of the carburetor on. Now the top portion of the carburetor sets on pins down there, and what happens is sometimes you take these screws out, and because of the tension on it, it'll spring this piece, the top piece, off and go crooked or whatever, and the gasket will shift too in there, and it's a real pain to get back on because you have the carburetor, you're trying to do it with the carburetor on the machine still. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use two simple tools you're going to need. Okay, you're going to need this number 2 Phillips head, and that's for the base idle screw, and the 2 screws that hold the plate on for the primer bulb. And then what I do is I unscrew the base idle screw out to where there's no tension left on the throttle lever. This way it won't spring on you when you take these 2 screws out. So what I generally do is I screw that idle screw out, and then I'll start screwing these out, and then I'll get up under this plate here that holds the primer bulb on, and I'll just pry it up a little bit, and then I'll take these screws out, and then you could kind of like hold this top piece down a little bit, and you'll get the plate off. And once you get this plate off, it only goes on back on one way. So what I do is I take the screws out, take the plate off, I just set it down to where I know when I put it back on there, it's going to fit back on here. Now another good thing to do is once you get the primer bulb off and you don't have any extra ones around, because I have a few different extra ones that came in kits, you know, like the HIPAA carburetor kits come with 2 of everything practically. And if you don't have the primer bulb, what you want to do is take this primer bulb off and go up to the lawnmower repair shop. They have them. You know, they have an assortment, and then just match it up. Now, I know at the lawnmower place, I bought one once, and that was a couple of years ago. It was like $5 for it, for just one primer bulb. But, I mean, you'd still be saving money. It's a lot cheaper than dropping the machine off and having them do it, replacing it. Now, when this primer bulb broke, I knew that the carburetor was still in good working order and everything. I think about 2 or 3 years ago, I had to put new fuel lines on it. I beat the tar out of this thing. I don't know how it's still running. You know, like a trimmer like this, a Ryobi or a Craftsman or something, I usually only get like a half a season out of them, and then they blow up or whatever. But this one seems to be running pretty good. So, okay, so I'm going to set the camera up to where I'm going to do the hands-on part of it. And, yeah, I'll be right back to you. Okay, so when you're unscrewing the base idle screw, you'll see that lever like I was telling you about. You can get a general idea of how much you're unscrewing it to take the tension off it. And you don't have to take this idle screw all the way out. Just enough to where it's not pressing on that plate anymore, okay? And then what I do is, this should come apart easy because I just had it apart. Then you can just unscrew these 2 here that hold the top part of the carburetor on and houses the primer bulb. I generally just loosen these up here. And then you can get under the plate with that little thin screwdriver. See, this is coming apart easy because I had it apart already. You don't want to lose your screws. Sometimes it will come off a little bit, but since you don't have any tension on it, it's a lot easier to place this back down onto the pins because there's no, you turn down the idle screw, so there's no tension on it. Sometimes when there's tension on it and you're trying to do it on the machine, it's a little bit of a pain, you know? So, the primer bulb just pushes right out of this plate here. Usually the plate will come off and the primer bulb will be stuck on there, and just pull the primer bulb off by holding your finger on the carburetor and just pull that off. Go get yourself a new one and then just reverse procedure, you know? So you stick your screws back on. Because I found that to be the hardest part, by not turning the idle down and that thing springs on you. And then, like I said, I told you before, the gasket shifts. And it's a real pain to get back together again sometimes. It's a pain to get back together sometimes when it's on the machine. I mean, when it's off the machine, the carburetor. So. And then, like I said, turn the idle screw back in to where, you know, you got a little judgment of when you unscrewed it. And then you can make your final adjustment of the idle after you start the machine up. And then once you put this back together here, right, you want to prime it and make sure you don't have any fuel leaks. And then after you start the engine, make sure you don't have any fuel leaks. Especially that these things run on a pressurized system, the 2 strokes. And that's it. It's as simple as that to do. It just took a matter of minutes. I talked more than I worked here today on this. So I hope this helps somebody out someday. And if you have any questions or anything, you can leave them down in the comments. But this is the easiest way I found to do it. And I guess I'll see you all on the next one. Thanks for watching. And everybody stay safe.